On Wednesday, July 23rd, we have Jason Morgan fixated on a woman he spotted who resembles his deceased ex, Britt Westbourne. Jason informs Carly Corinthos Spencer that he believes he saw Britt Westbourne, and she wants to know where. So I'm on a flight to Croatia, which is a bit random. I'm just wondering how long it will be before Jason and Carly discover that Liesl Albrecht is in town, which seems strangely timed, right? Lulu Spencer and Dante Falconeri are astounded by what they learn. This might be about Sonny Corinthos potentially taking Marco Rios based on a talk he had with his father on Wednesday, or about Rocco Falceroni seeing a Brecht. General Hospital early spoilers July 28th to August 1st. Drew Smug and Sidwell lashes General Hospital spoilers. Portia spills to Willow Nina Reeves also wants to talk to Drew and informs him that Daisy has been targeted. This might be her plotting with Liesl, or she could be wondering if Willow Tate is behind the smirking, based on what Liesl noticed. That may appear to be extreme, but Nina is determined to put a stop to this wedding. Drew will not say yes to it. Portia Robinson confesses the truth, and it appears that she is about to divulge to Willow the leverage Drew has over her. She suggested it on Tuesday, but she'll elaborate on Wednesday, stating that Drew wants Portia to falsify an opioid test on Michael Corinthos. She expects Willow to be horrified. Well, she isn't. Instead, she informs Portia that Michael did not fight fairly, so why should she? Willow appears to be condoning Drew's dirty tactics. This is a match made in hell. Obviously, everyone is becoming increasingly concerned about Willow's conduct. Nina may listen to Liesl and suspect Willow had a hand in Michael's loss of Daisy. Willow's approbation of Drew's behavior will take Portia by surprise. She may tell Curtis Ashford that Willow is aware and unconcerned about Drew's evil nature. That may be what motivates Curtis to do what he does later this week on her wedding day. General Hospital spoilers. Marco's glimmer of hope. D.A. Turner asks Sidwell whether he believes his son Marco is in danger. Sonny is at the PCPD, and Sidwell is concerned about Marco. I'm wondering if he'll have to lie to the DA because Sonny is present and wields all power. Pay close attention to these scenes, which I've been looking forward to seeing. These two have scenes because the actors D.A. Turner and Carlo Rota are married in real life. Carlo Rota and Nazneen Contractor have been married for years. They have children together. I think this will be extremely cute. However, in order to avoid Sonny from injuring his son, Sidwell may have to lie and claim to have seen Marco. I'm wondering if the DA will buy it. Sonny informs Dante at the PCPD that this is not a conversation they want to have. That appears to be Sonny letting Dante know, without saying so, that he does know something about Marco's disappearance. Lucas Jones obtained that address and key. He's beating on the door, calling for Marco if he's inside. So, if Lucas is at the door where Marco was, as appears to be the case, who provided him with the information? Was Jason trying to avert a war? That appears unlikely. Maybe Carly found out. General Hospital spoilers. Key plot twists and character developments for July 23rd to 25th. On Thursday, July 24th, Liesl reconnects with Elizabeth Weber. Of course, they both care deeply about Franco. I wonder if Liesl will find out she has been seeing Rick Lansing and say, "Don't do that." Liesl understands how bad Rick was to Nina. So if she finds out, she might warn Elizabeth away, which is sound advice. Willow and Scout Kane are conversing before the wedding, and Willow may reassure Scout that she is not attempting to replace her mother, Sam McCall, but simply wants to be a nice stepmother. Of course, I believe Drew is seeking for Willow to replace Sam. I still feel he intends to have his new wife adopt his daughter. General Hospital spoilers. Willow and Drew's big day. Trina Robinson feels she made the right decision, and I believe it is about dumping Kai. Nina decides she needs to intervene and may decide to tell Willow about shagging Drew in a desperate attempt to prevent the wedding. Alexis Davis and Drew have a potentially nasty meeting. She hits him with her opinion, which is not particularly polite. I'm wondering if this is about Scout and Willow, or just replacing Sam on General Hospital. Drew and Willow's wedding is scheduled for Friday, July 25th. Things are going to be hectic. Nina organized the entire wedding. There won't be many guests. She may also intend to wreck it, despite her desire not to damage her daughter. Curtis and Nina plan to talk to Willow before the wedding. I'm curious who will spill the beans because Curtis makes a special effort to see her and talk sense to her. But there's nothing to talk about there. However, admitting that her groom slept with her mother could be a game changer. General Hospital spoilers. I know many fans are hoping Willow will flee away. She was chatting a lot to Dr. Isaiah Gannon about the cottage, and she doesn't have any children so she could flee away. But I do not know. Drew seems to have gaslit her very completely. Lucas and Carly clash, and he is certain that Sonny took his boyfriend. If he verifies the kidnapping, whether he finds Marco or not, I'm confident Carly would lie, deny, and cover for Sonny, even if she knows the truth. Michael leans on Christina. He may be upset because it is Willow's wedding day, and she has moved so far away from the woman he used to love. He is probably still furious about Daisy. Something frightens Ava Jerome, and it could be Nina's promise to blow up Drew at any cost to save her kid, or something Rick says when he invites Ava as his date to the wedding. Lucy Coe invites someone along. She may want Sidwell to be her +1 at Drew's wedding, though I believe he has his own invitation, but Lucy is meant to officiate. General Hospital spoilers. Wedding guest list. Wedding guests include Alexis, who brings Scout, Drew's lawyer Martin Gray, who stands behind Kai, Lucy as the officiant, Liesel and Nina. It appears that Ava is his +1. It's a pretty small crowd. Curtis arrives to see Willow before the wedding, but I'm not sure if he and Portia will actually enter the venue. Willow appears to be unstoppable, but anything is possible. So the major question is fight or flight. General Hospital wedding drama and fallout. Drew Kane Quartermain and Willow Tate's controversial wedding week. Nina will be dealing with the aftermath of the wedding from July 28th to August 1st. Willow, along with Curtis Ashford, appears to be on the verge of discovering the truth about Nina and Drew. Curtis and Nina were plotting to depose Drew. Portia was too. But we'll see if anything can turn Willow away from her psychotic fiancé, because Drew and Willow's wedding will have a significant aftermath. The major question is whether that wedding will truly take off. It appears like the drama will continue into Monday. Kai faces the consequences of his choices, and Michael Corinthos feels compelled to go forward. Lucas is still angry. Sidwell is going to strike back hard once he thinks Marco is safe. Jocelyn, Jax and Vaughn must convince Port Charles that they are genuine lovers. However, Anna Devane has figured out the game. The Brit clone drama becomes more intense. Jason digs deeper and may corner Liesel. He will not stop until he speaks with her. Furthermore, Brit is in Croatia, the same location as the courier, which is interesting. This week on General Hospital, Carly was surprised when Jack reserved the Metro Court pool for a quiet romantic afternoon. Joss confronted Vaughn about Jack's relationship with Carly, but he urged her not to make noises since Jack was too strong to cross. Anna and Dante deduced that Jack most likely recruited Joss as an undercover spy, taking advantage of her sadness over Dex's murder to bring her into the fold. Anna maintained that they couldn't break Joss' cover until they knew what was truly going on. At home and heart, Lucy surprised Brooke Lynn by bringing Lois on air during their beauty segment, resulting in high ratings but high tension. Despite the segment's popularity, Brooke Lynn was outraged by the ploy and fired her mother on the spot. Meanwhile, Jason missed a flight while attempting to track down a lady he suspected was Brit, and spent the trip home thinking on their history. The woman who appeared to be Brit arrived in Dubrovnik, Croatia, and declared herself happy to be back. Portia finally snapped and told Willow that Drew was blackmailing her into fabricating Michael's papers, so that Willow might gain custody of her children. Ada Turner threatened Sonny with legal action if Marco did not appear shortly. Sidwell withdrew support for Measure C due to Sonny's lobbying, but pledged revenge once Marco was safe. Jordan notified Laura of Sonny's suspected participation in Marco's disappearance, raising concerns that Sonny may be no better than Sidwell. Meanwhile, Martin discovered a cryptic note written to Monica behind a chair, and the contents left him clearly concerned. Lois told Flora about her regrets with Brooke Lynn and Gio, which she blamed on generational values and past decisions. Brooke Lynn clashed with Tracy after overhearing her involvement in the campaign against Sonny, saying that damaging him would affect Gio. Tracy, on the other hand, was adamant that Sonny posed a threat and should be removed from Port Charles. Drew resumed wedding preparations, sending out invitations while avoiding questioning about his expanding list of unethical behavior. Lucas received a mysterious mail with a key and an address, which he later used to discover and rescue Marco. Lois announced that she would return to Bensonhurst to give Brooke Lynn space. Albrecht, Spinelli, and James went hatchet throwing, with Albrecht warning Spinelli that Willow appeared to be spinning dangerously. Jason informed Carly he thought he saw Britt in Paris and wondered if she was really dead. Lulu and Dante insisted that Albrecht remain away from Rocco. At the PCPD, Marco reappeared and told a flimsy narrative about getting lost on a hike, plainly protecting Sunny. Portia was astounded by Willow's persistent support for Drew and informed Nina, who was appalled by Willow's metamorphosis. Drew dodged Nina's claims about targeting Sasha and Daisy, but he later became dubious of Willow's hazy explanation for the 4th of July. Spinelli urged Willow and Drew to invite Albrecht to their wedding, which Willow shockingly accepted. Sunny informed Carly that Sidwell backed down. Marco lied to cover his tracks, and as a result, there is now no arrest. Carly confronted Lucas about tipping off the cops. Later, Lucas attempted to confront Sunny, but was put in his place. Portia was about to resign at General Hospital when Curtis persuaded her to stay another day, implying that he had a secret plan to blow up the wedding. Kai confessed to Drew that he told the truth to protect Trina, even though it cost him everything. Scout asked Willow if she may call her mom. A depressed Nina told Ava that she believed Willow was responsible for Sasha and Daisy's misery, observing Willow's pleasure after learning that Sasha had fled town with the child. Sunny advised Marco to remain out of Sidwell's business and that he would not be hurt, and suggested that he return to Miami. Curtis informed Willow that Drew and Nina slept together when Willow first fell for Drew. Willow confronted Nina, who admitted to sleeping with Drew. Willow was distraught and told her she hoped she had died like Nellie, who had no idea Nina was their mother. She then showed up at the wedding to go down the aisle, but it's unlikely she'll follow through. Drew's confidence was never subtle, but it had recently curdled into something considerably more abrasive, smug. Drew exuded a sense of superiority in the days following his most recent altercation with Michael and Sunny, which irritated people around him. It wasn't just the way he rejected concerns or continuously reminded people of his apparent moral superiority. It was the deliberate way he spoke, the smug twinkle in his eye, and the way he acted as if everyone else was 2 steps behind. Port Charles had seen power players come and go, but Drew's new identity was causing ripples that even he hadn't expected. Sidwell, a keen and quietly prominent investor in several Port Charles business endeavors, had initially dismissed Drew. He had no need to be concerned about the man's posture, but Drew didn't know when to stop. He had made the mistake of insulting Sidwell at a recent Aurora media event by criticizing a minor oversight in front of important stakeholders. Drew saw it as just another flex, a way to remind everyone that he was now in charge, that Jason had left, and that he had the upper hand. But Sidwell was not someone who took public humiliation lightly, especially from someone he had previously considered an equal. Sidwell first ignored the situation, saying little to anyone and withdrawing into his network of connections and allies. His quiet, however, was never a sign of weakness, but rather of strategy. He began to stealthily consolidate power behind the scenes. While Drew walked about Aurora's offices like he was the king of the world, Sidwell was meeting with board members, preparing documentation, and reevaluating major investments. Sidwell knows how to move in the shadows and strike when his prey least anticipated it. Drew had no idea the storm was approaching. Drew had changed and everyone, especially Carly, noticed. She had supported him through some of his toughest times, but she was beginning to wonder what he had become. This was not the Drew she had formerly relied on. He had become colder, with a desire to dominate every conversation and win every debate, even if it meant alienating people closest to him. He talked of devotion, but acted as if trust was a weakness. Carly noticed the warning signs, but confronting Drew had become a minefield. Drew would always dismiss her worries, accusing her of being overly emotional or too attached to Jason's way of doing things. It was exhausting. Meanwhile, Michael had become increasingly estranged from Drew. Their once strong bond had weakened, in part due to Drew's refusal to compromise on the family business. Michael had hoped Drew would be able to help him navigate the muddy waters left behind by Jason's disappearance, but instead, Drew attempted to fill Jason's shoes in the most arrogant way possible. He wanted control of ELQ and Aurora, and he was now forcing Michael to pick sides in the escalating confrontation with Sidwell. Michael did not want to be a pawn in anyone's game, particularly Drew's. Sidwell's initial move came softly. He began withdrawing funds from a few of Aurora's side ventures, nothing too noticeable at first, but enough to cause ripples in the balance sheets. Drew, preoccupied with his own public image, failed to detect the pattern until it was too late. Then came the leaks. Rumors about Drew's aggressive management style began to circulate in gossip websites and business pages. Stories of staff unhappiness, inconsistent leadership, and speculation about his mental health began to circulate. Drew believed someone was after him, but he miscalculated how far Sidwell's reach extended. Drew confronted Sidwell at a charity event at the Metro Court, which was everything the town liked about high society drama. Drew approached with his customary swagger, attempting to corner Sidwell in front of a handful of journalists. He demanded to know whether Sidwell was spreading lies about him. Sidwell did not even flinch. He grinned, sipped his drink and remarked, "If your leadership was strong, rumors would be irrelevant. But clearly they're striking a chord." It was a lesson in prepared retribution, and Drew went away angry, humiliated for the second time. Employees at Aurora started talking. Drew had tightened his control on the corporation, increased surveillance of internal communications, instituting stricter approval processes, and even proposing non-disclosure agreements for mid-level employees. He said it was all in the name of defending the company's vision, but everyone knew otherwise. He was losing control and reacted as if he could feel the walls closing in. Shareholders began to waver, and Sidwell continued to work behind the scenes, gradually gathering momentum for a boardroom coup. Carly, watching everything unfold, confronted Drew in his office. She told him bluntly that the man she knew was gone, and what remained was someone obsessed with power and control. Drew exploded. He accused her of betraying him, siding with those who sought to bring him down. He complained about being the only one ready to take a harsh stance, the only one with the courage to defend their empire. Carly didn't recognize him anymore. And for the first time she recognized that she might not want to battle for someone who had already gone too far. Meanwhile, Nina observed from the sidelines, curious. She had her own issues, Willow, Sunny, and the consequences of her SEC betrayal, but she constantly kept an eye on the battlefield. Drew's breakdown had potential. If Sidwell succeeds in undermining him, she may be able to pursue new opportunities. She wasn't willing to make any overt moves just yet, but she did make an effort to reconnect with Sidwell, reminding him that she too had been burned by Drew's arrogance and might be a valuable ally if the tides turned fully. Brooklyn had also noticed Drew's transformation. They had formerly worked well together, swapping insider information and ELQ movements, but Drew had become too unpredictable. She attempted to warn Michael that something was wrong, that Drew might do something desperate if forced into a corner. Michael agreed, but his hands were tied. He couldn't totally alienate Drew without endangering Willow's trust, especially since the family was still attempting to recover from the SEC incident. Then Sidwell made his final move. He had discreetly persuaded enough board members to hold a vote challenging Drew's status as CEO of Aurora Media. The meeting was scheduled for Friday afternoon, and despite knowing about it days in advance, Drew did not have enough time to mobilize support. Too many bridges have been burnt. Too many people had become bored of the man who claimed to be helping the company, but had instead caused havoc. The vote was terrible. Sidwell didn't gloat or rub it in, but Drew's dismissal was crucial. The fallout was immediate. Drew stormed out of the boardroom and refused to speak to the reporters. He retreated to Carly's house, but she refused to let him in. She softly but firmly told him that he needed to figure out who he truly was, because the man at her door was no longer someone she could support. Drew was left standing in the rain, the full weight of his actions bearing down all at once. Meanwhile, Sidwell sent a carefully worded statement to the press, emphasizing the importance of consistent leadership and a fresh focus on responsible expansion. He didn't say Drew's name, but everyone knew who he meant. Aurora's power transition was complete. Drew had been dethroned by the guy he had derided, alienating practically every ally he had ever had. Drew returned to his empty penthouse and glanced at the images on the wall, memories of happier days, when he wasn't striving to win or dominate, but simply lived. He understood too late that his success had come at the expense of those who mattered the most. And now, with no empire, no allies, and no one to blame, Drew must decide whether he is ready to change, or if he is doomed to repeat the same mistakes over and over.